hearts are beating. They beat us one tonight. We step into the rhythm until we feel alive. Don't underestimate it. This feeling's too contagious. They're never gonna tame us. So let your spirit fly. Bring the house down.
Look, Ma, no hands. This is the all-new XUV700. And yes, Mahindra have a lot riding on this one because after the success of the Thar, they really need this one to do as much or more to state to the world that they are indeed an SUV manufacturer to be reckoned with. The XUV700 promises a lot with both petrol and diesel powertrains available in manual and automatic options, and an all-wheel drive variant as well as a feature list that is enviable. It has all the arsenal to take on the competition. Can it shake up the segment? That's what we're going to find out. Now, if you'd rather watch the review in Hindi, head to our sister channel Autocar India and you can watch the full review of the XUV700 in Hindi as well. Now, I've been chatting away with you guys comfortably because the XUV700 has been doing a lot of the work for me. So yes, the XUV700 offers ADAS features like adaptive cruise control, autonomous emergency brakes, forward collision warning, lane departure warning, lane keep assist, smart pilot and high beam assist. At Autocar, we really believe in active safety, and these advanced driver assistance systems, which is what ADAS stands for, are what help you prevent a crash. While we have seen ADAS before, it is a standout feature for the XUV700 because this is a segment first. So the adaptive cruise control works really well. All you need to do is press cruise control, set your desired speed, and then you can set the distance to the car in front of you, and it's a 3-step setting that you can have either in close, far, or really like a safe mode. I've got it in its closest setting. And then take your feet off the pedals and let the car do all the work for you. All you have to do is just steer the car along and it will do the rest of the work. Now, on the cornering, you can see that the system takes it a little slower. It doesn't actually keep quite up with the car in front. It takes the corner at a speed that's safe for the car. Now, if the car in front of you slows down suddenly and then starts off again, the system works just fine to slow you down and start you off again. If the car in front decides to come to a complete halt, this will do the same and then start off again as well. So yeah, it works really well. My feet are firmly planted on the floor, haven't touched the brakes, haven't touched the accelerator. I'm just driving along comfortably, keeping pace with the car in front. And should a biker or a pedestrian cross your path unexpectedly, the emergency brakes will kick in. And when your lane keep assist is on, you can even really take your hands off the steering wheel for a bit because the car will keep to the lane for you once there are clear lane markings around. If you're veering off your lane, the lane departure warning will gently tug at your steering wheel to warn you as well as give you an alarm. The intensity of the warnings can be preset as well. The reaction time of the system may differ from yours, and so it takes a little getting used to, but once you do, you will find it all works really well. In fact, so well that you might be tempted to take your hands off the wheel completely and take a nap. But remember to always keep your hands on the wheel and eyes on the road. There's nothing like human instinct. There are additional safety features like the personalized safety alert that records the voice of a loved one warning you when you're overspeeding. There's a lane watch camera that kicks in when you use the indicators and shows you something that's too close behind you or in a blind spot. There's also a 360-degree camera that can be accessed on the go and has multiple view settings to see every possible angle around the car. So yeah, Mahindra said safety is a core pillar of the XUV700 and it sure looks like it. Let's take a look at all the safety features. Well, I'm sure you want to know all about the other exciting features that the XUV700 comes with, and I will be telling you in detail later on this story, so stay tuned to the whole story right to the end to know all about them. But for now, let's talk about the engines. The XUV700 is powered by a 2.2-litre turbo diesel with two power iterations, a 155 HP with 360 Nm of torque, or a class-leading 185 HP with 420 Nm of torque on the manual and 450 Nm of torque on the auto. There is also the most powerful iteration of Mahindra's M-Stallion 2-litre turbo petrol that produces a very strong 200 HP and 380 Nm of torque, making it the most powerful in its segment. They both come with a 6-speed manual and a 6-speed torque converter automatic, and as I've said before, for those who believe that an SUV is incomplete without off-road hardware, you will get the option of all-wheel drive. Now I've kicked it off with the petrol automatic, which is going to be a popular choice because this is a creamy smooth engine that really brings a smile to your face. Now, it's not a punchy shove of torque that you get when the turbo kicks in, but it's more of a very solid, strong linear acceleration, and it's quick, so it's really delightful. Our preliminary test at the track gave us a 0 to 100 time of 9.32 seconds, and that makes it the fastest in its class. This is a cracker of an engine. Power kicks in around 1800 RPM, after which you ride a big giant wave. Now today, it's a test track, and the delightful part is I have no speed limit. So yeah, 142, 45, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51. It just keeps going, and the way this gets to alarming numbers of triple-digit speeds is just fantastic. It does it so easily. This engine really breathes easy. And while flying around this high-speed track over here, I mean, I'm doing around 160, I'm on the banking, and I can keep going. Grip is amazing, body control is amazing, roll is well contained, and even the steering wheel is giving me an amazing amount of confidence. So really, the dynamics are good enough to keep up with the power that this engine has. But coming back to the performance, there's a joy in knowing that whenever you want power, it will be served up even at higher speeds. Put your foot down and it's always ready to give you some more. So overtakes on the highway will come very easy. Now, as good as this feels out on the highway, it's as tractable in city driving conditions, which we're simulating with a car driving in front of me now. It's crawling along at low speeds, stopping, starting, and simulating basically what driving in traffic would be like. And I have to say, it is really a breeze. This makes very light work of driving in congested conditions. The steering is light and easy, so nipping in and out of traffic gaps is going to be simple. Taking U-turns will be pretty easy as well, and so will parking be. And when you want to park, you do have that 360-degree camera as well to help you with visibility all around. A lot of the ease of the driving comes from the iSense 6-speed torque converter automatic that seems to always be in sync with your driving needs. And when you want a sudden burst of power for an overtake, the downshifts come quick enough, and even the upshifts are so progressive and smooth. While driving on the winding section of road, I didn't feel the need to use the manual mode. The engine and gearbox work so well in tandem to ensure that it's a fun drive. There are no paddles on the XUV, but honestly, so far, I haven't missed them. On a winding section of road, body control is good, roll is well contained, and the steering weighs up quite nicely. Overall dynamic capability has taken a huge leap forward, and a lot of it has to do with the torsional stiffness of the new chassis, which is 80% better than before, giving the car a great base to build on. It feels like it's built tough. Now, from one auto to the other, I'm driving the diesel auto now, which is going to be another favorite. I have to say the engine here too is pretty refined and smooth, and it's only when you push it hard that you realize it's a diesel. The auto box works well here too, but it doesn't really mask the lag. So, at particularly low speeds, when you slow down and, like you would be doing in a city and you want a sudden burst of power to start up again, you might have to wait that little moment. But having said that, this engine and gearbox combination is probably one of the best in the segment. I'd go as far as saying that. It does feel quick. The engine is another really good offering from M&M and belts out power strongly. And our test on the Mahindra track, we hit the 100 mark in 10.34 seconds, making it another really quick powertrain. Now, the key difference between the diesel and the petrol is that in the diesel, you get drive modes. And the drive modes are called Zip, Zap and Zoom. Zip is obviously for economy and that uses only 155 HP. When you shift to Zap, you unleash the full 185 HP and you can feel the difference almost instantly. And Zoom, well, that really brings a smile to your face. The throttle responses get much quicker and it feels fun to drive. You also have a custom mode. With the choice of modes, whether you're crawling in city traffic or on a highway, power is served up when you need it. It does feel a little nose heavy compared to the petrol, and so it's not quite as agile, but it still feels solid, secure, planted. Cornering feels very good as well. And you get a very nice connected feel to the road, but the steering is heavier than it is in the petrol. While it does feel a little more weighted than the petrol, it is still light enough for city maneuvers and parking. The two manual variants are being driven by Sergius out in the real world, so it's over to him now.
So while Renuka has been driving the automatics on the track, I'm here with the manuals out on the highway, out in the real world, and it's given us a small little chance to feel what they feel like out on our regular roads. I'm with, of course, the diesel manual, and this would be my pick between the two diesels. The gearbox does let you use the power much more effectively, and in the auto, that little bit of lag that you feel, you can just drive around it with manual control. The gear shifts are not the smoothest, but it's not a big complaint either. What's amazing is, of course, that refinement from the engine. Another bit I was keen to experience out here was the ride. And it's a massive improvement over the XUV700. It isn't class leading and doesn't quite flatten the surface, but the ride is well composed and you don't get tossed around on bad roads. Highway ride too is well composed and you can confidently carry high digit speeds over even less than perfect surfaces. And now it's over to the one for the petrol heads, the petrol manual. So we are with the petrol manual. Now this powertrain combination forms the entry point to the XUV700 series. Having driven it though, I can tell you that the performance is anything but entry level. It's an absolute firecracker of a unit. The 200 horsepower delivers tons of performance, and the best bit with the manual gearbox, yes, of course you do miss the convenience of an auto, but you can now rev it to its 5,800 RPM limit. And that is really something that I'm sure a lot of driving enthusiasts would enjoy.
Now with the driving done, it's time for me to hop into the back seat. Backseat space was one of the strengths of the XUV700 earlier when it was launched, but it's been a long time since, and there are now larger cars, the Safari, the Hector, they all have a lot of backseat space. However, this one is bigger too. There's more space between the wheels, and it may not be class leading, but it still is a very spacious back seat. Two tall people will be extremely comfortable one behind the other. And if you're on the passenger side, you even have this lever to move the seat all the way in front, get really comfy, stretch your legs, and even recline the seat. So yeah, there is ample space and you can get very comfortable. And then you have that panoramic sunroof that really makes it feel very airy. You sit high up and visibility to the front is good too. As for the ride quality, you heard Sergius' verdict out in the real world. And the XUV700 uses frequency selective dampers and stabilizer bars front and rear to give it the composure. Although the engineers at M&M have done a great job of the ride and handling capability of the XUV700, which is a huge leap forward from the XUV700, it doesn't quite have the finesse of some of its rivals. Now, as far as features go for the rear seat passengers, they get aircon vents, a USB-C port, and an armrest with cup holders. Now with the armrest up, 3 abreast will be comfortable here, but why believe me? Let me show you. Now while the boys are going to check out the middle row, I'm going to check out the third row back to the Petrol. The width remains the same as the previous XUV700 and it seats 3 adults quite easily. The central console does intrude into the rear a bit, but there is still enough legroom for the third passenger. Now, getting into the third row is from the passenger side because it has that single flip and fold seat that makes it easy. And it's not so difficult for someone my size. Ingress is pretty easy. There is no recline for the backrest. So yeah, you do sit a bit upright, you do sit a bit knees up, and this is best for small kids. However, you do have an AC vent for yourself, you have a 12-volt charging port, and you do have cup holders as well back here. We also found later that the rear seat does recline, but the lever is the one at the back of the seat used to flip it down. So it's hard to find and difficult to access. So that's about the third row. What I have to tell you as well is that the middle row is pretty easy. Even elderly people won't find it too high to get into because it is pretty much at hip level. It's not much of a step up. And the door opens quite wide as well, so getting in and out is pretty easy. Now while I go and check out the front, you guys go and check out the boot. With 3 rows up, boot volume is still marginal, but it does seem a little more than before. And of course, you can flip and fold the seats down to open up way more room. Well, it is a fresh-looking, spanking new interior here on the XUV700, and taking center stage, of course, is this single-piece glass screen which houses the infotainment and the digital dial cluster. Both of them are 10.25-inch, sharp graphics and a host of functions, and we'll get to those in a bit. But for now, let me show you around the interior. The dash is very neatly laid out. There's a leather finish across the middle. You get a chrome look plastic. The plastics are nice and they look good as well. So yeah, finishing and quality of materials looks good. There is piano black in the center. There are toggle switches over here for easy access to functions. Your HVAC controls sit on dials and knobs over here, and I quite like that actually. The central console has 2 cup holders. What is really nice over here is that you have a wireless charging pad, which is easy access over here. But you have another extra slot for a phone as well over there. And you get USB ports as well for charging. You have a rotary dial which lets you access the functions on your infotainment screen as well. Storage space over here which is quite nice and deep, and a nifty handy little tray in the storage space. The door pockets can house 1-liter bottles as well. So yeah, it seems to be a really practical interior. What's new as well here are the seat functions, very similar to the Mercedes as well. There's memory and powered seat functions for the driver's side. The lumbar support, however, is manual via a dial on the side of the seat. On the ergonomic front, while most of it is okay, the door unlock button is quite a ways back on the door handle, making it a little awkward to access. Some of the things on the interior that let it down a bit are the piano black finish, which is not quite as good as the rivals, and the wood look on the doors, which stands out as low rent in contrast to the rest. The digital cluster has 3 themes you can choose from and is crisp and clear. Now, while it does let you access a wide variety of driver-focused functions and trip information, getting in and out of the menus is a bit cumbersome. One has to toggle through the menus via a button on the steering wheel and press to access. But when you want to revert to the original menu, it just isn't a back button that you have to press. You have to run through the menu, go up to exit, and then it doesn't automatically revert to the last info screen you had. You would have to re-access it via another set of toggles. There is a favorite button to help you get back to a certain menu, but that would mean remembering to set a favorite every time you accessed a new menu, just so that you get back to the original one. The system could be a whole lot simpler. The infotainment screen is also slick and responds well to touch. You have a cool 360-degree camera, which I spoke to you about earlier, and you also have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. To access functions other than the screen, one can either swipe up for all the apps or down for the shortcuts. You also get Alexa, which can access features even without connectivity. Alexa, can you open the sunroof? Of course, when connected, you can ask Alexa anything from directions to a recipe and she would serve that up too. There are also some interesting functions like a G-force meter and a lap time recorder under the Fun with XUV tab. Now, the infotainment system was in a beta testing stage, so we will reserve comment on its functionality for a later time when we see the final version. There is also a 445-watt 12-speaker Sony sound system including subwoofers. It has 3D sound with building blocks technology and digital sound enhancement as well. And it gives you a variety of sound settings to suit your hearing needs. There are a couple of features that the XUV misses on, like ventilated seats and paddle shifts and an auto-dimming rear view, but the segment first features here outweigh all of that. And overall, the interior with its extensive equipment list does have a lot of wow factor. Now, while the higher Renuka variants get the large twin 10.25-inch screens, the lower MX variants will get an 8-inch screen and a 7-inch cluster. Now, at this time, Mahindra have given us the feature list on 4 variants, so let's take a look at those. Finally, let's talk about the way the XUV700 looks. Let's begin with the spanking new logo nestled in the center of the double-slatted grille that fans outwards where its lines meet the twin DRLs. The fang-like headlamps are a trademark now and extend to the bumper that houses the fogs encased in black cladding and the air dam. The bonnet retains the XUV flared sides, but they are a little softer now. The profile is also very familiar and a lot like the outgoing XUV500. But there are the new flush door handles. While the top-end variants will pop out as you approach the car, the mid versions will require you to push and then pull open. But the base version will require you to use the key, unlock, push to pop out and pull to open. Now, some people may really like these handles, but personally, I'm not a fan. The top variants get 18-inch alloys while the lower variants get 17-inch steel wheels. The rear looks quite nice, especially the chiseled line that sits between the tail lamps that extend down and over the sides. There is a matte silver fake diffuser at the lower end and a spoiler on the top. Dimension-wise, the XUV500 has grown overall in length and there is also more space between the wheels, but the height is lower and the width remains the same. Ground clearance seems to be on par with its rivals, which should be around 200 millimeters. This may not turn heads, but is definitely a more mature design. So why is it called the XUV700 if it's replacing the XUV500? Well, mostly because it's all new and Mahindra didn't want people to think it was just an evolution. But also because Mahindra are leaving space for a mid-size SUV to come a little later and take that moniker. Mahindra are aiming high. They've thrown everything they have at the XUV700. Sure, it does miss on some features like paddle shifters and ventilated seats, which we're used to seeing even in lower segments. But then it has kit and equipment that we're used to seeing in segments way above. So on the feature and equipment list, it definitely has a big tick. You've got a multiple choice of diesel, petrol, manual, automatic and even all-wheel drive. So yeah, there's a wide variety of variants to choose from. The jewel in its crown is really the powertrain. These powertrains are what bring it alive. And Mahindra have to be commended on the ride and handling package. It has taken many leaps forward. Then factor in that it is spacious, you can get 7 seats as well, and most importantly, the cracking pricing. M&M have announced prices for 4 variants as of now, with the rest of the optional pack and variants pricing to come later. The XUV700 looks set to redefine the segment, and it is surely a script to another success story for Mahindra. But then, it has some features and equipment that we're used to seeing in segments. But then. That's what distracted me.
Let me take 2 shots. Ma'am. Okay, come back.